What's up, everybody? John Crichon from Behrent's Performance Warehouse here for some trailer talk. This week we're going to talk about the packing of wheel bearings as well as showing you an example on how to pack them. One thing that's changed over the course of the last several years has been the bearing packing process. The old school method of taking grease out of the palm of your hand or even using a tool from your local auto parts store and packing the bearing to the point where it is overpacked is a method that has changed. Race teams actually figured out that it's more precise by using a tool such as a bearing packer or even a syringe. And part of the reason why that they figured that out is because they can control the amount of grease that they're applying to the bearing. What that means is with controlling that grease, you are applying an equal amount of grease throughout the entire bearing, which ends up lowering heat. It ends up increasing the amount of low drag, and it also is ensuring you that you're not over applying. With that being said, the grease that we're going to be using is Delube Nano ceramic racing grease. It's a great grease that is not just applied for the wheel bearings, but you can use it throughout the race car on things such as your universal joints, spline ends, even things like lubricating O-rings for side bell of quick change rears, or even applying a little bit of grease to certain seals. It's offered in 3 different varieties, where it is a syringe with a 2-ounce tube. So if the idea of purchasing a bearing packer, such as the needle bearing packer by DRP Performance, is a little bit out of your budget, this is a great and cost affordable way of still being able to achieve the packing process with a needle. It's also offered in a tub version where, if you are working on certain kind of components and need to be able to use grease, you can just unscrew the top and apply it as needed. And lastly, it's also offered in the cartridge version. You could put it in either a grease gun or your bearing packer and use it throughout the race car like so. It's a great grease just because it's got a very, very high operating temperature. It's a low friction grease that, if you're trying to achieve low drag, it's a grease of choice. The Bearing Packer by DRP Performance is a tool that, if you have the budget to purchase, I highly recommend it. It makes packing bearings super, super easy. It's mess free, and more importantly, all with just the precision of pressing down, you have the ability to control the amount of grease and make sure that it's equal throughout the entire wheel bearing. The nice thing about it is, too, it's got interchangeable face places based off of the bearing that you're going to be using. For today's example, we're going to be working with a 2 7/8 bearing, so our bearing packer came with the proper faceplate. If you are working with a bearing that might be a wide 5 bearing where it requires a different inner and an outer, DRP makes the plate. All you have to do is just unscrew the top, place the plate for the bearing that you're going to be packing, and go to town. So today, with that 2 7/8 bearing, we've got our bearing packer already set up. It's already got our Delube Nano ceramic grease inserted inside. All we're going to do is we're going to place that right over the needle. Insert the grease to the point where it's just starting to come out the top. After we do that, we're going to move on to the next needle and repeat that process throughout the entire bearing. Once we've packed it properly with grease, our bearing is now ready to go inside our hub, and depending on whether we're working with the inner or the outer, the seal can then be applied. Now that you know how to pack bearings properly, give us a call at 845-651-7389 so that we can get you stocked up on some Delube Nano ceramic grease, whether it's the syringe, cartridge, or the tub. And if you also are looking for a DRP bearing packer, you know who to call. Now that you know, that's this week's Trailer Talk Tip.